the entire set.
Which
That's
like isn't too bad for Petra, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, she got the beef on the guns like that, so it makes sense. I'm just like, it feels like we've seen some overcompensation from Skeldra in terms of like the defense, because a lot of greatsword players always want to be grounded, right? And so they're so used to fast falling out of hit stun, and it feels like he's like, well, the greatsword players always do this, so I'm going to jump, and now he's getting red on that. He has to bring back fast falling out of hit stun and disadvantage as a mix-up option, so Mounir doesn't have an easy time reading it.
Tried to cover himself there with another end light.
Oof.
Mounir's doing great here. A lot of unanswered damage. Weapon toss to get in the turnaround there. He even got the dodge off of that. Wasn't able to convert too much off of it. Gets through the bridge.
Oh, Mounir is mixing it up really strongly here. Skeldra went for a first hit of sidelight the last time. Mounir didn't dodge and just attacked out of hit stun. She was like, all right, next time I'm going to go for an opener into a bridge, and then Mounir dodged immediately on the bridge. So now Skeldra doesn't know when to go for these dodge reads, and that makes it really hard to get your offense started.
Nice punish there. Also gets the disarm onto Mounir. Skeldra's just going to be over on the wall, hoping he can. I don't know what that second one was.
I feel like you just sword end light there. D-light recovery here. Yeah, that's your friend. Maybe even go for side air there if you want to go for like the offstage game, because now he has to catch him on the way down. It looks like he does, but he had to kind of get a free whiff punish on recovery there. So just kind of sometimes you get to pick which way you want to do it. You know, there's no correct option necessarily. I love it. Ooh. Don't see that often. And that's also kind of the downside, right, is that you go for that gravity cancel end light, which is going to be a finisher because it's greatsword. It hits, but he has so little damage that the end lag actually gets him punished by the end of it.
There's the jumps there. Mounir recovering high here. Gets his landing caught as well. He's getting caught on these landings from the D-light.
Wow. Got anti-aired by that down air on the orb there, trying to go for that N-sig. And Skeldra leading into the regular sword a little bit more here. Trying to get that recovery. Wants to be stacked on top of Mounir. There he goes. Gets it with an end light this time, the Nair.
Ooh, we are really starting to slow down, dude.
Feels like a conceded diss track. Wow, that Nair actually had enough to get the KO there. So Skeldra pushing forward. He's going to go swap back to the sword. And I respect the decision. It's easier to just kind of tack on damage with this weapon.
And I think he just has a better kit to deal with the initiation vectors that Mounir is moving in on. Especially like if he's looking at the Nair, like of course it's a very safe move on the orb, but like he has virtually nothing on the greatsword kit to deal with that. Whereas like sword will have dare, you could have like a fast fall side air, might even throw a gravity cancel D-light in there if he's feeling a little bit saucy.
Ooh. Skeldra cooking here, getting a lot of counter punches in on Mounir. Mounir can't find a convincing way in here. Every time he tries to go for something, Skeldra's right there with the rebuttal. Here we go, finally a chance for Mounir, but he tries to go for a read instead of a reaction, and it costs him the potential ability to get that stock.
Mounir choosing to go back onto the gauntlets, throwing the orb in front of him. Oh, Skeldra, there is a weapon spawn there. He's not too worried about it.
I was like fine with the decision making until he went off stage.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you want to hold the corner there and see if you can hit him off one more time, I get it. You don't want to give up that positioning. But the moment you go off stage unarmed, you're kind of just giving it away. And that's exactly what we saw there.
Is his next weapon going to be the greatsword or sword? Because I feel like it's greatsword. It is greatsword. So I'm surprised he didn't pick up the weapon so that he could then have the greatsword, potentially lose his stock, and then come back and grab a sword. Maybe he wanted the greatsword. Maybe he didn't want to burn it. He didn't want to set up the sword for his final stock so that he could do something like that. All of a sudden, the entire game was slowed down to a snail's pace, and then all of a sudden he changes it up. Final stock, flips the switch, and we're off to the races.
Yeah, and you know, oh, wow, okay. I'm like curious here because you know, as a greatsword lover, aficionado, if you will, I'm just surprised that Mounir is kind of letting Skeldra go to these stages, man. Like, I'm like, this is a field day for me. I'm so happy to go to a stage with no platforms. But if I'm Mounir, I'm trying to go to maybe a tri-plat, at least like a Miami Dome or like a Fortress Alliance, something where I can kind of delay my landings. But we did see before that when he got that crazy stock with the orb off the top, it was because there were no platforms to run away to for Skeldra. So maybe he's thinking, all right, I still want to win the set off of the juggle scenario. But if that's the case, you got to keep Skeldra up in the air more. Yeah.
The Miami Dome is a good point to bring up because I think that's like the kind of middle ground for, or APOC really, for players who don't like soft platforms but realize that they're important for their survival, which would be the POV if you're Mounir in this case. Oh, that was close. Skeldra stayed a little bit too deep towards the blast zone there.
I like it. Skeldra unarmed here. Going to have a regular sword. Going to pick that one up. Jumps right over that weapon throw as well. Mounir waiting for something to spawn. It's not going to come. Where is it going to be on the right side? But it looks like Skeldra's going to be able to deny him. And they are both unarmed. Skeldra goes for the unarmed down sig. That means Mounir has a chance to get a weapon. Or is he going to starve Skeldra though? He's trying to. He doesn't want to. Oh, he just gave it away. He just gave it away.
He just probably wanted to punish the landing, and while he was really focusing on the gauntlets in the previous game, all of a sudden he's throwing the gauntlets away, using the sword, which is largely probably the reason he chose to move over onto this Val pick for this game, so that he could punish those landings with the D-Light into the recovery, feel really good, feel more confident in the consistency of those KO options compared to the gauntlets that he had earlier.
Ooh, and this is that situation that we need Mounir to milk here, right? Keep Skeldra in the sky. And Skeldra's actually going for some really weird strings here. He's going for an N-Light starter into side light bridge, which you don't see very often, mainly because most people go for the down light bridge, the slide on the sword, because it forces the opponent off stage, and it can be true in a lot of situations. But Skeldra opting to go for a different route. It's very interesting. I think he doesn't want to lose where he's standing on the stage.
Needs to be careful about that recovery. Didn't have a dodge off of cooldown in time to move over. You saw the sweat beads coming out. He didn't have anything more in his in-air movement economy. And now Mounir has a nice, juicy lead here. Going to swap back over, of course, to the sword again that he already primed by picking up a set of gauntlets, tossing it away, and picking up the sword that he had in his hands previously. Skeldra not able to find a cheeky KO off the top like Mounir got previously.
Wow, great spacing from Skeldra there. Oh, tries to go for the down.
Nice
You don't see it very often, but it is so good. It also sends you at a pretty abysmal angle as well. And they are scrapping here. The trade happens on that blow. The neutral stick comes out. That tornado spin isn't going to be enough. Skeldra tries to go for the finisher there. Gets a cheeky one, but it's not going to work.
That was a close one. If you went for the ground pound, that's potentially the KO there, but you're really risking a lot if you go for the ground pound over the down air. So I don't blame him for going for the down air option rather than the ground pound.
Okay, Skeldra gets one dodge read here to tie in.
Oh,
tries to go for the 50-50 no dodge from Mounir, and a beautiful turnaround.
He did it to him again.
Into the robot windscreen.
That's disrespectful. Because that's just like literally the worst robot of all time.
Yeah, there's like the transitions are like not transitioning. It's just like it's like a 4-framer, you know?
Yeah.
Just like
you see the like Boston Dynamics robots? Yeah. Like that's the robot that Elon made that was like a guy in a suit or whatever.
Meanwhile, the Boston Dynamics robots are like doing parkour.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Yeah, beautiful turnaround coming out from Mounir. Skeldra definitely gonna have to think a bit more about the defense. Big J unit. Yeah, look at that. Look at those cankles. He's ready to go.
Oh my goodness, that's terrifying.
Big Akuma too, just not as a.
Yeah,
not as
Akuma is really big.
Misutz. That's my guy. Love him. But yeah, I mean, looking at the damage, I mean, only 210 on the Great Sword, 104 on the regular sword. Meanwhile, 368 on the Orb of Mounir. So that really, really, really plays a big difference there. I mean, it's been obvious to us that Orb has been quite an issue the entire time for Skeldra here. I think it's a really weird matchup for Great Sword as well, because Orb feels like Sword's cousin in a lot of way when you're trying to deal with it on the ground. It's just like these really fast moves that are hard to punish, and Great Sword startup isn't that great. We have Mag Yizzle as the option here. He says, I need more defense.
Yeah, I almost didn't even recognize the skin because, one, you see this legend so rarely, and therefore you see someone having the skins for this legend even more rare than that. A lovely skin. I was not expecting to see a Magyar. Let's see what his hammer's got.
Yeah, I mean, he does go the speed stance, which is good because, you know, Magyar has that base 4, which you can, like, really feel. And so going into that 5 is definitely going to make it easier. Goes for the down sig that did get buffed, like, at this point, maybe like half a year to a year ago. But they made that move a lot faster. Definitely much more viable. But this hammer, I'm curious. TK was asking, is hammer officially back? After that stock, I'm here to say no.
Well, maybe Skeldra's hammer is not back just yet. Like, there are a select few group of people that like show the real potential, can show like what Hammer actually has, and kind of like shades of what Hammer used to be with like the modern movement that we have. So like taking what used to be good and then like pushing it forward into the modern meta. But Skeldra really starting to struggle here. He's taking so much damage, and like, yeah, he has Mounir in the beginning stages of red, but like Val is a reasonably tanky legend, all things considered, and he's not able to find these KO options. That didn't even send off screen just yet. These neutral lights are adding up, but the side air finds the KO. Skeldra's not in a terrible spot. He's only about halfway through this stock, and like you said earlier, we definitely have to take into account the high defense that Magyar has.
Yeah, I'm a little worried for Skeldra. I'm not going to lie. This is effectively the equivalent of, like, you know, playing like Rocket Lance and then swapping over to Roland just because you're trying to like do what you've been doing, but like having a little bit more extra beef behind it. But on the other side of things, I think we saw a lot of great use come out of that sword from Skeldra on the JU, and I don't know that the like hammer here is really going to be worth that trade-off. And so we're seeing, I mean, effectively he's betting all his chips on greatsword. Is what it feels like to me.
And your point about the Roland swap over, at least when you're going to the Roland swap over, if you're a Lance player, like you have sword, which like everybody knows how to play very well. And you can still big dunk. You can still kind of play in basically the exact same way that people have always played it and still do well. The best sword players are like pushing it forward, but you can still play the old regular and do the old bread and butters, look for resets and things like that and still find success. Whereas you kind of can't do that with hammer anymore. You gotta be a different player.
Oh, getting down is so hard. Just because you really only have that thin area behind you as greatsword, and so if you're up against sword coming down and it's even slightly misspaced on the y-axis, that nair's going to beat you out every time.
Ooh. I think Mounir's definitely feeling confident in this. The fact that he went the GCD light on the edge. Yep. Oh! Big interrupt there. Did he touch? Oh, it was over. It was over. It seemed like it was over before it even started. That was less than a 2-minute game that Mounir just completely ran over Skeldra's Magyar.
Yeah, no, that was tough. That was tough. I was watching that, and I will say, like, especially in kind of that final sequence there, there was just a clear understanding that Mounir knew how to play against a greatsword offense in a lot of ways here on these strings, right? We see Skeldra